Control, this is Agent Dev. I'm in position.
Copy that, Dev. Stand by for go.
Standing by.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on the Agents of Dev podcast. I'm Mitch Ashley. I lead the software lifecycle engineering practice at Futurum, a practitioner, product development, lots of different things in software in my career. And I'm joined by co-host, of course, Brad Shimmin. Hey, happy 2026. Well, welcome to the next year, the next era of what's going to happen in AI next.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mitch. And starting off slow, clearly. We're off to a very even, slow-paced start to the year. Fantastic.
Feels good. Man, but I sort of cut you short to let folks know who you are.
Oh, yeah, VP Practice Lead for Data Intelligence, Analytics, and Infrastructure, also here at Futurum. And like Mitch, I'm also a practitioner / analyst / whatever, techno evangelist, despairer, and reveler at the same time.
I think the term for that is geek, but okay, yes. Which we both qualify.
Wait, not the sideshow geek. Let's clarify.
No, yeah. Not the Barnum and Bailey type, but yes, very much so. Well, so lots of things we can talk about. It's an exciting year, and we're in the midst of our predictions and getting some things published out that folks will see. We're both going to be on Predict, which is a conference, Predict 2026, the conference that TechStrong puts on. That's on January 15th at 9 a.m. Eastern. You can go to techstrongevents.com. You'll see Predict right there. Easy to sign up for. And a bunch of us from the analyst community are presenting it, and there's other great presenters there, of course, too. So, the few things happened over the holidays. There are a couple things leading into it. One of them was you were quoted in an article that was making the case that, this Python thing is nice, but it's going to get taken over by Java. That's really what rules the world. And so you data scientists go keep playing with Python if you want to go. The rest of us will use Java. I think I'm maybe being a little tongue-in-cheek, but that's essentially what the article said. Not your quote in it, but what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel the same way now, and even more so than I did when I responded to that request. And it's that... I think to believe that Python and Java and C# and TypeScript, et cetera, are going to continue as domains of expertise that will drive ultimate buying power in the enterprise, I think is a mistake. I think that, and I think you and I are going to chat about it on today's episode about trying to readjust how we view software development and how we view the tools that we use to build software. And a language is a tool. It's something you use to imperatively say, here's my recipe, please do the recipe. And some languages are well suited to certain tasks, and Java has been well suited to backend development, by and large, because it has a terrific mechanism for managing large scale projects through its object oriented programming and through automatic garbage collection, so you don't end up with the things you run into if you're coding in C at scale, for example. But it's just a language, and at the end of the day, what drives language use isn't always the, how well suited it is to the environment it's running in or to the task it's supporting, but instead to how low the friction is that developers experience in using the language, how quick they are to solve problems with that language. And as I started to say a second ago, the further we go with agentic development, I feel like the less important that becomes, because we're basically seeing a collapse of all of the layers of abstraction that we have built since we were writing in assembly language. Are we not?
Yes. Yes, or programming those dip switches on the front of the computer.
Let's go back to that.
Yeah. Well, I can remember when Java was taken off and a lot of excitement about it, and it certainly has done extremely well. But I think that's more of a bias of well, in my world, whatever my world is, it's all Java. So the rest of the world, and it is a dominant language, no doubt about it. In environment, there's a lot of great strengths. JRE, the runtime that
Oh,
it
yeah.
executes on, the libraries, all of it's very good. But also, Python came along for some very good reasons, and one of it was its usability and easy to learn, and very extensible. Whether it's PyTorch for machine learning or whatever library you want to use. It's extremely extensible, and people are writing some low-level things in it as well as applications and everything else. So I think if anything, if Java grows, you could argue COBOL modernization to Java is probably going to be one of the biggest growth areas.
Well,
for Java.
that's IBM
And
actually coded or trained a model to do just that task,
Exactly.
that one task.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
not a slight to Java or in mainframe or whatever, but I think that's probably the biggest growth opportunity, at least right now. So I agree with your point, and this is something we're going to get into. And so I'll introduce it now. On the 26th of December, right after Christmas, Andre Karpathy put up a post on X basically saying, I'm not sure if I know what I'm doing anymore with this whole AI, using it for development. And I've sort of kind of reached the point of, I keep falling back on essentially what I knew how to do already. And I feel like I'm not really totally leveraging what AI can do for me. That's my summary of it. It's probably an inaccurate, but it gets a little bit of the spirit of it. And he described it as, it's kind of like aliens landed on the planet and dropped off these tools, and we're supposed to figure out what to do with them.
Yeah.
So I think it was one of those moments, and I don't want to be the old guy too much here, but I've seen this myself when, like in the cloud, when everybody described it as, it's just somebody else's computer. It's just like all the, it's no different. We've been doing that for years. And then suddenly you realize, well, when you remove a constraint, like I can have how many servers available to me in
Right.
seconds, minutes? Okay,
I didn't
now what
know
can
I could do
with that?
this. Maybe
Yeah.
I can do this.
Exactly. And that's kind of, we're in that point. I think that's, it'll be one of my predictions about this year, is kind of reaching this tipping point with AI and development where, yes, you can do things the way you have been doing it and still be the developer you've been and kind of use it as a tool. You can also, not saying you go into vibe coding, which is, Andre also coined that, but it's developing software in a different way. And I know you were experiment with some spec-driven kind of stuff over the holiday that had caused you some questions about, this is changing.
I am rethinking my rethinking. And maybe Andre's like going in vibe computing, like postmodernism. I don't know, but yeah, I'm with him, and I felt this actually, and I will like put my flag on the moon, saying that back in 2022 when ChatGPT first came out, I said and wrote down the words, it is as though we've discovered a UFO. We know that it works. We don't know how it works. So we're joyriding around in this machine that we don't know why it does what it does, but by God, we love doing it.
It's like this alien technology in Superman that humans don't know what to do with, right?
Right. And so we get in trouble. And
Yes.
we do learn how to run with those tools and how to use them. And I think you could say that with every major advancement. Think about the punch cards used to program looms back in the turn of the century, not this century, the one before, to automate, something that we didn't think was automatable. And did we think that it would work beyond looms at that point? No.
Mm-hmm. No, that was
And
just
look where we are
novel.
today.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the same thing. And like you said, it is forcing us, I think, to reevaluate and to live in sort of a space of uncertainty and a shift, much more shifting foundation. And I feel like somehow generative AI and agentic AI right now is simply one of many unsettling, shifting aspects of the reality that we inhabit as a species on this planet at this time. You know what I mean? It's not the only thing.
Okay.
Sorry, but
there's a really good point you were making, though, and that is, it isn't one thing that's changing. It's many things that are changing. Not only how we develop software, how we think about
the economics of software.
the economics of it, the who can do software, what are the skills required,
Yeah.
how much can you do without having a lot of skills in developing software, using AI? How far can you take it? Do you believe all the Instagram and TikTok videos, or there's some limitations to those? Maybe those aren't, all the cases in the world that can be solved that way. But
but we
that's
learn
it.
through failure. We learn through discovery, and those two go hand in hand, do they not?
They
I
do.
believe the fellow who discovered America, Christopher Columbus, went to his deathbed denying the fact that he discovered America.
Yeah. Well, and Alan Kay, who was an Apple fellow, he was at Xerox PARC, and one of the things he coined was the Dynabook idea for the laptop. That tells you how far back it was. He had this saying of, "I don't know who discovered water, but it wasn't a fish." It's like,
That's right. We're just swimming in it. Yeah.
yes, it's so ever prevalent, and I feel like that's the way change is. Like with
It is,
all of
and
us.
like you said, Mitch, it's uncomfortable, and for everyone out there, Mitch and I were chatting just before we got on the air about this idea of spec-driven development, and it is being touted right now as a means of making vibe coding more enterprise scale and a trusted companion instead of skunkworks. Why did you do that? Now we need to port it to something we can manage, and I had a revelation actually recently about that, and it was it's terrific at basically following the scripts that we've known for the last 60 some odd years. It thinks in that paradigm. It's trying to apply a paradigm to this new way of development. That paradigm itself may no longer be relevant. I mean, there are aspects of it that are always going to be relevant. It's like a good practice, but to impose a way of thinking about software within an environment that doesn't recognize that boundary, sometimes isn't the best thing. And I ran into that headlong, and I had specced out a step change, and we had a good plan, with checkboxes and everything, and got about halfway through it. And it occurred to me that I wanted to take on a task that was not dependent upon it, but was impactful to it. And when I did that, it absolutely fell over hard.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
And was like, no, we need to finish this. I'm like, no, we don't. Put that aside. So I had to basically tell it to just pack up shop, do all the commits, set up its log, because it's a nice facet of spec-driven development is that every time you make a change, it will basically not just do the commit with a lovely commit message, but also log the change in a very programmatic way, such that it becomes a part of the living memory for your agentic system layer, which is chef's kiss. But it was like so inflexible. In how once it had derived its spec-driven plan, it couldn't deviate from it. It couldn't adapt to new ideas, new thoughts, and those new ideas, by the way, were sort of arose from the fact that I was using an agentic tool to do this. If I was writing code manually, I would have just seen it through and then gone back and started another path.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, because my first reaction when I heard, spec-driven development, my one thought was, well, shouldn't we have been doing that all along? But okay, all right. I think that was part of it.
We should know what we're going to build before we build it. Yes, agree.
Yeah, but there is, I have this belief of 50% of planning and designing is doing. You can only plan and define so
I
much.
like that. Yeah,
you've got the other part of the learning is actually doing it. Getting the hands-on with it. And it's interesting because the IDE tools that have this design mode or requirements mode and development mode, whatever they may term it, are essentially using they're switching context in a major way. This is the new system prompt for design or for specs. And we're going to work on specs. And I'm guessing that's part of why, you get stuck in the mode of spec and then you switch over into a different system prompt development. Well, it's doesn't know how to go back and iterate and change the design and adapt. It's been told to follow the spec, and maybe a little bit too firmly. So maybe those things should be agents that work together. But
we want to impose those controls and constraints.
We do, but we also want it to challenge and say, now that we're doing this, now that I see what you're really trying to do as we're building this, okay, there's something. Here's what I would do. It's like you and I would be sitting down developing on a project and say, that was a great idea where we started, but actually, given what we know now, let's do this. Let's change. Change the architecture a little bit. Add don't do that functionality first. Let's do this.
That was a mistake. Go back and fix that.
Exactly. I used to have this belief of, it took about 3 tries to get the software right of what you were trying to build. The first 2 were just sort of practice attempts. And by the third attempt, you're kind of on the right track. So I'm not. When I heard about the spec-driven development, I get it. I'm not a believer as in, oh yeah, that's the answer. That's the new paradigm. That is not the paradigm we're shifting. That isn't what Andre is talking about. This is no, we're developing software not by just writing spec, not by inspecting code that gets generated or tweaking it and modifying it. It's we're letting code happen. What we're directing is the process of how it gets created and all the inputs going into that. And so it's the changing of the job of the developer.
Yeah. I mean, I know I've harped on it before, but I firmly believe, and I think Andre is pointing to this, that what we're seeing is the death of syntax and the emergence of context. And like you just said, you need to be able to describe the problem, and that's why it is speculated and so commonly seen right now that companies are looking for people who know how to describe problems. They know how to articulate that problem. They know the domain they have the domain expertise to solve that problem, but they may not know how to code. But they know how to manage this, swarm in many ways of agents and sub-agents that might be tasked with solving that problem. So it's fascinating.
So I'm curious your thoughts about this. What doesn't sort of jive with me about spec-driven, that it's the answer to everything, is software development so incremental. It's one of the reasons why I thought DevOps is such a good idea, or Agile was, because you're not trying to tackle everything at once, right? Because frankly, what product spec didn't change along the way, right?
I think none of them. Every one is not what it starts out as.
Exactly. So sort of defining it as a linear process again, and maybe I'm overstating that a bit, but still, it sure feels like it's that. It doesn't seem that's how we would create software. It's not how I would design a product, even if it wasn't going to be in software. But what are your thoughts? Am I crazy about this?
No, I don't think so at all. And like we're talking about with the spaceship we're driving around in, this is all about dealing with ambiguities. And when you're using a deterministic paradigm to run something that's probabilistic, it's going to be a mismatch. It's going to create a lot of not just friction, but I think, paradigm mismatches wherein, people will be disappointed with what they build because they're just trying to turn, waterfall into a new version of waterfall, for a development paradigm with new tools. No, don't do that. So like with our example of spec development getting frustrating, wouldn't it be great if you could have, a swarm of agents and sub-agents that were each tasked with particular roles and specialities and skills that could work with you to say something to the effect of, hey, Brad, I know you just upgraded to the newest embedding model, and I see that you are using a number of how you have the length of the string that you use for that embedding, isn't just a set of numbers, and I'm using a high dimensionality that's going to cost me an arm and a leg. Maybe you shouldn't do that for this use case. I would love it if there was, a system that was probabilistic that watched what was happening, not
Yeah, like it
engaged
might
all
say,
the time.
hey, this is going to be a high cardinality field, right? So let's sort of switch approaches here on how we're doing the database because of that.
Right, right. And maybe I had thought of it and forgot it. Maybe I didn't think about it at the outset, and so didn't put it in the spec, And so I do believe that we have to live within this realm of uncertainty, and not just live within it, but embrace it and use it itself as a tool, that uncertainty, to allow us to solve problems that we know about and that we don't know about. It's the unknown unknowns, as we know.
Yeah,
It's,
yes.
are the problems.
Well, speaking of those unknowns, one of the unknowns that I think about is I also don't believe the IDE is the ultimate destination of what we're creating here for how to build software. I think it's what Andre's talking about, right? It's the extension of how we do things now. It's the incorporation of literally extensions in IDEs. And it's part of why you see this dual modality of I'm talking over here in these two windows and with the AI, and here's my code window where I'm kind of living in the world I used to live in only. And I've described it as I think the next UI looks something like StarCraft, where we're managing resources and agents and tasks, and maybe it's not that fun. I'd love it.
I don't know. Maybe it is a gamified environment.
Wouldn't that be awesome? Find the best gamer, turn them into a software developer. Hey, we already kind of do that.
New job title. Yeah.
So there's a tipping point where we sort of cross over into, okay, there's a new paradigm. Is there another Kubernetes out there for AI control planes? Is there something like that that's going to emerge out of either open source or maybe when the vendors become more dominant on the kind of the control plane for managing and governance and security guardrails, all of that?
Yeah.
I keep looking for signs of those kinds of things. So we're going to make a shift in some of those directions.
Too many of them already.
It's the swimming in change.
Yeah, it's the orchestration layer that where a lot of the money is going right now from every model maker and every AI platform player, and every tool maker as well. And oh my goodness, and the reason why there's so much invested in it is it's an area of difficulty and opportunity because they do go hand in hand. And will there be like a Kubernetes idea that comes out of that? I would hope so, because I'm a proponent of open source all day long. Okay, especially with an FO in front of it, so free and open source, and yet it doesn't preclude us from having a dominant player. Just ask the Apache Iceberg team.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Whether you hate JSON or not, Apache Iceberg is the stratum that is now the norm within the decoupled data lakehouse in the enterprise, and for good reason. And an ecosystem builds up around it. So, will there be something like that for orchestrating multiple agents and swarms of agents and sub-agents, and even development tooling itself then sort of sits in the background and emerges only when we need it in the context we need it in, and to look and work the way we would want it to for that? Like maybe it looks like N8N today because I'm just wireframing stuff. Maybe it looks like one of the Cursor VS Code spinoffs, whatever, because you like that paradigm, like the one you just described, Mitch, or maybe it's something that's more like Opal from Google, which we've talked about, which is like N8N, but with no code anywhere, Maybe it's all of those. Maybe it's a freaking Markdown file, which I would love that.
It's a Markdown, JSON and Markdown. We can tackle the world.
That's right. That's all you need, and Emacs and VS Code. And sorry, NeoVim. Sorry, not VS Code.
Oh goodness. Well, I tend to think that the likelihood is a little bit stronger that it's going to be some open source type of solution, because I appreciate your feedback on this, Brad. And that is, by being open source, it solves the multi-vendor dominance problem. and vendor compatibility. It's one of the things about Kubernetes is, yes, it really is vendor independent, and people build ecosystems around that instead of Microsoft or Google or whoever is the dominant player in it. So I think there's a lot of benefits to that. I got to imagine there's several teams out there, several Brads and Mitches out there writing the next Kubernetes for agent orchestration platform control plane. There's a long title for
gotta
you.
Think, yeah, gotta think that's happening. Yeah, and maybe it is from one of the big players because we know that they benefit tremendously from open sourcing software.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at what Meta did back before it was Meta with AI software and so that itself. So
VS Code. That'd be an open source. Look at we wouldn't have all these IDEs. I don't think if VS Code wasn't
we
open
would
source.
not. No, we would still have Electron, which I really still am upset about. But yeah,
Going back to Emacs.
That's right. But yeah, I've got to think it's going to come, and it's interesting. The study we did this past summer, asking data professionals, why they used open source, and the top reason wasn't that it was free. It was that it was easy to integrate, into their environment, into their stack. And I think that will always be the case. And that's why we've seen the rise of so many, popular open source projects, even though, sometimes that can be a bit of not want to say a trap, but maybe it is a trap when you think about like Redis as a good example of that. And you think about some of the, complexities that when large companies buy open source, the vendors who are behind open source projects, like HashiCorp from IBM.
Yeah,
and,
there's a great example. Changing their license to be bought is what, in my opinion, is what happened.
Yeah, that is what happened. because that is the way that companies work is by making shareholders happy, not customers all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So there are tensions in the industry, and I think that what makes me feel good about ours in particular right now is that the level of experimentation is, I would say, much more accepted and much more supported within the broader ecosystem of those who would support it and drive it. So 10 years ago, you wouldn't see like the same level of like acceleration for building out new frameworks, ideas, and such that we do today. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is happening at breakneck speed. Well, if for fear of overstaying your welcome again, we should probably go to our ending segment for this episode. So now let's turn our attention to the closing segment, the drop.
Okay, it's time for the drop.
All right. I think I kicked off last time with the drop. You want to start sort of what's going on with you? Where's your headspace pointed right now?
Yeah. For me, the drop is coming into a new year. We as an analyst, we try to put together a set of predictions for what we think is going to happen, and we usually do it annually. And we've chatted internally about this, and I think all agreed that probably 6 months is the maximum window that we can really. 2 months. Oh my goodness. Yeah, right, man.
No, twice a year. Twice a year.
Oh, okay. I was like quarterly. At least we should be doing this quarterly. I think that's okay, and it goes to what we've been talking about and what Andre, I think really pointed at so well in that post is that we are living with instability, and those that can swim in that current, meaning they don't drown, will I think benefit the most. And I that you've heard of like two paths, and there's the middle way between them. This is a very old Buddhist idea that's been across many cultures, and that is that the idea of wu wei or the no way of not taking action is sometimes the best action. And I think that for those building software, maybe the middle way is the way right now. Maybe you should just not commit, just accept and use and enjoy and splash around in the in the eddies and the currents and enjoy yourself, because I don't know if we're going to see a similar sort of time come again like we are right now in our lifetimes
we've
anyway.
never seen anything like it. It's the jump in, the water's fine, right? Sort of that strategy. Well, the drop for me is I'm just getting ready literally to drop in the next few weeks the next data set for the software lifecycle engineering, and we've expanded that into a couple of areas. More questions about the use of AI in development and operations, AI ops, in testing, the importance of that, and what the spending is looking like. And, kind of hint, you can imagine AI. Well, I always ask, so over the next 12 to 18 months, what are you increasing spending on? And certainly AI across multiple dimensions, not just development, code gen, is a big part of it. So we'll be able to share that with folks and have that come out. And there's some signals coming up after that. So I'll be doing one on observability too. So that'll be fun, and taking it from there. But then, 2 weeks from now, I might say something a little different.
Scrap it.
That's our new prediction. Our prediction window, 2 weeks.
Indeed.
Well, thanks. It's always great fun. I think one of the things I'm looking forward to is more collaboration, doing things with you and with Nick and Keith and all of our analysts and Alex and Tiffany, the whole team here, as well as the companies across Futurum, which is a lot of fun. So we had a really good 2025 setting us up going into 2026, and we're ready to rock. It's a lot of fun.
Disrupt. We are ready to disrupt.
Disrupt the disruptors. Yeah.
It's very Star Trek-y.
Come out and play, yay.
Oh, wow. That takes me back. Yeah. Fantastic film. Fantastic film. Yeah.
Well, thanks for following. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe. We're on all kinds of podcast platforms, probably your favorite, also on YouTube. And we appreciate your feedback. Just send us an email at agentsofdev@futurumgroup.com. If there's a topic, question, something you want to talk to us about work or about the podcast itself, we'd love to hear from you. I just did
if you'd like to join us, let us know, folks.
If you want to join us, we'd love to have some guests on, and we do have people reaching out about doing that. So we look forward to kind of, once we get our feet under us, I think we're getting there pretty quick. We'll have some guests come on and subject them to this, which will be fun. We'll enjoy it. Well, thanks, Brad. We'll talk again soon on our next episode for sure, if not before.
Thanks, Mitch. Bye, everyone.
Control, this is Agent Dev. I'm in position.
Copy that, Dev. Stand by for go.
Standing by.